Ouija boards, harmless parlor trick, or one of the devil's many tools to ensnare your soul? Hopefully in this installation of Jakel's Internet Adventures, we can figure out what the answer to that is. That being said, I want to give a huge shout out to Titan RL, Melinda M, and my girlfriend Rachel for making this video possible. The three of you are the producers of this video. Y'all made it happen. This is a coffee table internet adventure. I had made a few of these in the past, but since then I moved, as you can tell, and the coffee table that I was using broke. So now I'm sitting at my kitchen table in the living room. So I'm just going to change the name to Jakel's Internet Adventures because Jakel's Kitchen Table Internet Adventure is kind of a mouthful. It doesn't have the same ring. And now you know what we're doing. Jakel is taking you on an adventure through the internet where we go and we dive deep to figure something out, answer some questions, and try to get a more definitive answer. And even if we can't come up with an answer, we can get to the history of something. We can get to where some of these stories came from. So now we bring the question. Ouija boards? I have never come across an item with more polarizing opinions than anything like the Ouija board. Everybody's got a story, whether their cousin played with a Ouija board and it went wrong, whether somebody played with a Ouija board and it went wrong, or I played with a Ouija board and nothing happened, this shit's bullshit. Or people that have never played with one and they're just like, oh, it's just a parlor trick, there's some hack that's going on in your subconscious and you're the one that's actually moving the board. Let's find out. This is what I'm trying to get to. Is it actually a tool for divination, or is it just your subconscious pushing the planchette around a bunch of letters and numbers? That's what I hope to answer. But that's not enough for me or anybody in my system. We are going to start with the history. We're going to start with how it came to be. There are people who have said stuff like spirit boards have been around for a long time. I want to get to the bottom of that claim. Have spirit boards like the Ouija board actually been around since, who knows, centuries as the claim has been? So I've only got 4 points here that I want to go across, but I like to go on for a while. These videos are some of my longest videos that I put out there. So I felt it was best to limit how many points I wanted to get to. So the history, which I filmed with Dahlia yesterday. Then we're going to pick back up with how do they work? Like, really, how do they work? And then the next one is, how do you use one, and how do you use it safely? Because, you know, people are going to use them, whether you think they're a bunch of bullshit, or if you think that they're actually a dangerous tool that should be used widely, a tool that should be used wisely, if at all. People are going to use them regardless. So, let's pick up from this point with what Dahlia and I filmed yesterday, which was the history of the Ouija board and how it came to be, as well as the predecessors and Ouija board-like tools that were used before the production of the Ouija board. Let's get to it. Alright, so for the first part of this video, the history of the Ouija board. Good news, we have spent a lot of time on the internet. And there's actually another channel called The Boo Review that we were big fans of. They don't really upload anymore. Actually, I think it's been about 2 years since their last upload, which is fine. I still love them. We still go back over their content every now and then when we're bored, and it's really become a comfort show over time. But one of their first videos was Ouija board history plus we try the Ouija board. So, let's go over what they said the history of the Ouija board was, then dive in a little bit deeper, shall we? Alright. All rights to this next video goes to The Boo Review.
Hey, let me take you on a journey of the history of the Ouija board. The origins of the Ouija board trace back to mid-19th century America during the height of spiritualism. While variations came and went, it was in 1886 that the New York Daily Tribune reported on a new talking board being used in Ohio featuring the alphabet, numbers 0 through 9, yes, no, good evening, and good night, which you'll probably recognize as basically the same layout of the Ouija board everyone is familiar with. As the popularity of these boards grew, enterprising entrepreneurs Elijah Bond, Charles Kennard, and William Moppin capitalized by marketing the board as a toy for the family. Before his patent was granted, Kennard had to show that the board actually worked to the patent office. The patent officer demanded that the board spell out his name. Apparently the board did its job, or someone participating happened to know the officer's name, but in either case, the officer was impressed and the patent was granted on February 10th, 1890. 1991. Kennard himself is attributed with the name Ouija, which he claims was an ancient Egyptian word meaning good luck. However, I could find no evidence of such a word in the Egyptian language. Other stories include using the board with one of the investor's sisters, Helen Peters, a medium, who asked the board what it was called, and it spelled out the iconic name. The original patent gives no information on how the board works, just that it does, and the less that was revealed, the more mysterious it became, and people had no problems paying the $1.50 price of admission to test the game for themselves. Ultimately, it was a moneymaker. The Kennard Novelty Company didn't care why people thought it worked, only that they believed it. Kennard left the company a couple of years later, and the Kennard Novelty Company became the Ouija Novelty Company, and William Full took over production of the boards. Later in 1901, according to some sources, it was Full who popularized the etymology mostly recognized today of Ouija being a combination of the French and German words for yes. It seems that it was never intended to be much more than a venture by shrewd businessmen with clever marketing to capitalize on a fad in niche market, and was far more successful than they could have foreseen. However, to this day, people claim strange tales from the use of these talking boards that you can still find on the shelves of most toy stores. The boards were wildly successful, and Full continued to be active in the company until his death in 1927 from a freak fall at a new factory that, allegedly, the Ouija board told him to build. The company remained active until his estate sold out to Parker Brothers in the 1960s. Hasbro later bought out Parker Brothers in 1991 and responsible for the production of the Ouija boards found in toy stores today. The Ouija board has continued to impress and mystify over a century later. Is this due to the clever marketing, or is there something more mysterious at work after all?
Well, all right, we got a basic brief rundown. Well, that's from one source and two people doing their research. I want to go in, now that we've got a few jumping points, we got familiarized with the basic overview of the history. Let's go in and dig a little bit deeper, shall we?
Now, here we are, beginning our research. Sometimes people really underestimate the power of a Google search. Cool, I've already done it. I'm still going to type it out anyway. Don't steal my thunder, previous search history. There we go. Haha. Curse me from the past. Not literally. Strange and mysterious history of the Ouija board. Tool of the devil, harmless family game, or fascinating glimpse into the non-conscious mind. You know what, we'll come back to that one in a minute, because I'm interested in this one. Most of us were told in school not to rely on Wikipedia because anybody can come in and adjust the... Basically, it was unreliable for various reasons. And you know what? I still say it is a good jumping point. As long as we're not taking everything as fact, it's still a good place to start. Collect information. Jumping points. So let's go. Ouija board from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. This article is about the spiritualist use of the Ouija board. For other uses, see Ouija disambiguation, not to be confused with Ouija. Alright. The Ouija, also known as Ouija. I say Ouija, but at least I'm not like Zach Baggins calling it an Ouija board. Also known as spirit board. Oh, hey, Dolly is in headspace with me. Hey. Remember, we're a system. There's two of us right now. Also known as a spirit board or talking board, it is a flat board marked with the letters of the alphabet, the number 0 through 9, the words yes and no, occasionally hello and goodbye. Does that one have hello, goodbye? Yeah, it does. Cool. Along with various symbols and graphics. It uses a planchette, small heart-shaped piece of wood or plastic. I had read somewhere that planchette is actually like French for small plank. Like cigarette is sort of like small cigar. So planchette, small plank, got it. But it's made out of plastic. Does it still count as a plank? Oh wow, I'm all over the place. Small heart-shaped piece of wood or plastic as a movable indicator to spell out the messages during a seance. Ooh, we can see what they say as a seance? Now see, seances and all of that shit, because of the Ouija board, our spiritual practice sort of started off in that old school spiritualism. Excuse you. My Ouija board just fell over. Our spiritual practice sort of starts with that old school spiritualism, like late 1800s, early 1900s, when this shit was all the rage and there was a whole bunch of tarot and scrying and shit like that. That's sort of like where we got our start in everything mystical and spiritual, and it just came from there. So, seances, we're familiar with the term. We know her in this place. Participants place their fingers on the planchette and it is moved about the board to spell out the words. Ouija is a trademark of Hasbro. Did Hasbro trademark it? Oh, they probably trademarked it once they bought out Parker Brothers or whichever one it was. Trademark of Hasbro, but is used generically to refer to any talking board. Spiritualists in the United States believe that the dead were able to contact the living and reportedly used a talking board very similar to the modern Ouija board at their camps in the U.S. state of Ohio in 1886 to ostensibly enable faster communication with spirits. Following its commercial introduction by businessman Elijah Bond on the 1st of July, 1890, the Ouija board was regarded as an innocent parlor game unrelated to the occult until American spiritualist Pearl Curran. Pearl Curran, well, that sounds familiar. I've seen her face before. Pearl Curran popularized it as a divining tool during World War I. Ha! That's where that comes in. Yeah, a lot of people will tend to mention that like spiritualism was a big thing until World War I, where everything sort of got slowed down courtesy of that, because the whole world was put on pause because of World War I, or at the time, the Great War, because nobody knew there was going to be a sequel. I mean, that doesn't mean that old school spiritualism didn't have its faults. Actually, Harry Houdini, being a stage magician and a professional escape artist, was finding this type of stuff like, I don't know if he found it insulting necessarily, but he was like, this is all a bunch of bullshit. So he spent a lot of his free time going to seances in disguises and debunking the spiritualists and finding the parlor tricks. Basically, he was a debunker. He would go and debunk things in the middle of a seance. And God, there was a documentary that I watched years ago that went over that, and it was just really cool to realize that Harry Houdini was one of the first major debunkers of spiritualism. Moving on. Paranormal and supernatural beliefs associated with the Ouija board have been criticized by the scientific community and are characterized as pseudoscience. The action of the board can be most easily explained by unconscious movements of those controlling the pointer, a psychological phenomenon known as the ideomotor effect. We're going to look into that. We're definitely diving into that, but let's just go over the history first, and I think that's one of the first things we're going to look over. Mainstream Christian denominations, including Catholicism, have warned against using Ouija boards, holding that they can lead to demonic possession. There are plenty of other things that could lead to demonic possession, but we'll leave that for the unverified personal gnosis. Occultists, on the other hand, are divided on the issue, with some saying that it can be a tool for positive transformation. Others reiterated the warnings of many Christians and caution inexperienced users against it. All right, let's time out. I need to go get some coffee. I'll be right back. We'll go over the precursors to the talking board.
5 minutes later.
All right, I am back with my coffee. It's just so hot. Oh, but it's so good. Oh, and I dripped it. Where was I? The history. Looking at the precursors to the Ouija board. One of the first inventions of automatic writing method used in the Ouija board is found in China around 1100 AD in historical documents of the Song dynasty. A method known as Fuji. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry if I butchered that. A method of... Wait, hang on. Fuji is a method of planchette writing or spirit writing that uses a suspended sieve or tray to guide a stick which writes Chinese characters in sand or incense ash. Huh. Okay. So it's not quite the same, but there are definite similarities here. The use of planchette writing as an ostensible means of necromancy. I'm familiar with necromancy. And communion with the spirit world continued, and albeit under special rituals and supervisions, was a central practice to the Quanzhen school. Quanzhen school, also known as the completion of authenticity, complete reality, and complete perfection, is currently the most dominant branch of Taoism in continental China. It originated in North China in 1170 under the Jin dynasty. One of its founders was I'm just going to leave it there. Was a central practice of the Quanjin school until it was forbidden by the Qing dynasty. Wow! Alright, that's a lot of cool shit. Going over talking boards. As a part of the spiritualist movements, mediums began to employ various means for communication with the dead. Following the American Civil War in the United States, mediums did significant business in allegedly allowing supervisors to contact or allowing survivors to contact lost relatives. The Ouija itself was created in the name and named in Baltimore, Maryland in 1890, but the use of talking boards was so common by 1886 that news reported the phenomenon taking over the spiritualist camps in Ohio. Call back to a couple minutes ago when we actually literally mentioned that. Hey, let's go back. This was 1886. When did Elijah Bond patent it? Elijah Bond on 1890. Oh, so dude literally just was like, oh, he probably just saw this stuff being popular in other spiritualist communities and was like, I'm going to make money off of this. That's literally what the dude did. He did nothing original. He just said, hey, 50 cents, motherfucker. Sorry, I think the Boo review said that he charged it $1.50, which was a lot more money then than it is now. Fuck, where'd I leave off? History, precursors, talking board. So yeah, dude, Elijah Bond just said, oh, hey, that's a thing happening. I can make money off of that. Oh my god, I literally could have just waited and kept reading. Fuck! I literally could have just kept reading. Oh, where was I? Commercial parlor game. Businessman Elijah Bond had the idea to patent a planchette sold with a board on which the alphabet was printed. Much like the previously existing talking boards, Bond filed on 28th May 1890 for patent protection and thus is credited with the invention of the Ouija board. Issue date on the patent was 10 February 1891. He received a U.S. patent. This one. Bond was an attorney and was an inventor of other objects in addition to this device. Oh my god! So hang on, let's go back. Talking boards, spiritualist movements, mediums did significant business in allegedly allowing survivors. The Ouija itself was created and named in Baltimore, Maryland. But the use of talking boards, okay, so I guess he is. I just wanted to go back and see if he stole the name Ouija from these spiritualists as well. Oh my gosh. Where'd I leave off? An employer of Elijah Bond, William Fuld, took over the talking board production. In 1901, Fuld started production of his own boards under the name Ouija. Charles Kennard, founder of Kennard Novelty Company, which manufactured Fuld's talking boards, where Fuld had worked as a varnisher, claimed he learned the name Ouija from using the board and that it was an ancient Egyptian word meaning good luck. When Fuld took over production of the boards, he popularized the more widely accepted etymology that came from the combination of the French and German word for yes. The Fuld name became synonymous with the Ouija board as Fuld reinvented its history, claiming that he himself invented it. The strange talk about the boards from Fuld's competitors flooded the market, and all these boards enjoyed a heyday from the 1920s. Oh my goodness! Wow!
So when I first started practicing witchcraft was when I was like 15 years old. Dahlia fronting, by the way. I was about 15 years old. I have a half brother, and his mom is a practicing witch. So she started teaching us, and she started like teaching us basics, I guess you could say. And one of the things that I heard that was constantly repeated around her and her coven was talking boards have been around for centuries. It's nothing new. This is something that's been around forever. The big business just got their hands on a patent for it, which appears to be mostly true. For some reason, I thought that was going to be a bunch of BS created up by neo-pagan movements, but there's actually some truth to that. Like, wow. There is one thing, though, that I recall hearing about semi-regularly when I'm like doing research in the past, is that a lot of the pre-Ouija board spirit boards used automatic writing in a different way, and it was very similar, uh, because it would be a piece of paper, and then the planchette would be a little bit taller, so there could be a pen or a pencil underneath it to write things out. And that is something that I always thought was the more popular version of automatic writing, and that's why Elijah Bond was credited the way that he was, because automatic writing using spirit boards wasn't new, because it seems to be very similar to the way that it was used with the method known as Ouija, which was uses a suspended sieve or tray to guide a stick which writes Chinese characters in sand or incense. So it was very similar to that. So let's see.
All right, automat. Boop. Planchette. Is this where we're? Ouija board, automatic writing, my tussle with the devil. Woo! Love the propaganda, man. Love the propaganda. All right. Though Planchette's experience great surges of popularity in the Victorian time, modern usage of the term is most commonly associated with the heart-shaped pointers for Ouija board. Let's go into it. This seems like a good one. Oh, cool. It's Wikipedia again. Oh, hell, I missed you. Planchette from the French for a little plank. Okay, I was right there. As a small, usually heart-shaped flat piece of wood equipped with two wheeled casters and a pencil-holding aperture pointing towards, used to facilitate automatic writing. The use of planchettes to produce mysterious written messages gave rise to the belief that the devices foster communication with spirits as a form of mediumship. The devices were popular in seances during the Victorian era, before their eventual evolution into the simpler non-writing pointing devices for Ouija boards that eclipsed the popularity of their original form. Scientists explain that the motion is due to the ideomotor effect, but paranormal advocates believe that the planchette is moved by the presence of spirits or some form of subtle energy. So yeah, no, that appears to be mostly true. Planchettes took on a variety of forms during the height of their popularity. American planchettes were traditionally heart-shaped or shield-shaped, but manufacturers produce a wide range of shapes and sizes, hoping to distinguish themselves in the highly competitive and profitable market of devices late 1860s heyday. Manufacturers espoused the wonders and benefits of different materials, including various hardwoods, India rubber, and even glass. Insulated casters, and even various attachments meant to charge the device or insulate the user from malevolent spirits. Wow, some things and some themes just persist throughout time. In Great Britain, planchettes took on the classic shapes popularized in early illustrations and newspaper depictions with round, blunt noses and flat backs. Regardless of their shape or country of origin, almost all planchettes were equipped with brass casters and small wheels of bone or plastic, and their sometimes lavishly illustrated boxes were often packed with blank parchments, pencil, Ouija-like folding letters, and esoteric instructions espousing the mysterious communicative powers of the item. Okay. So yeah, it looks like the automatic writing using a planchette to write on paper in some way, or similar to the Fuji method, where it was writing in sand or incense ash, was the most popular. And they're probably, knowing the way business works, there probably already was a Ouija-like product out there where there was, like, what does it say over here? Parchment, pencils, Ouija-like folding letter sheets. So yeah. So what Elijah Bond did really was take an idea to make it simpler, easier to produce, and put it out to the public on the market. So really, he didn't really steal a whole lot. He took what was existing, modified it a little bit, and made it better for business. Boy, some of my biases that I had coming into this are a little I'm glad I did this. I learned a few different perspectives of the things that I had previously mistaken to be the truth. Moving on.
Welcome back to the next section of the video. This is really kind of fun for me because I filmed the last part 2 days ago, and the intro I filmed yesterday, and now it's Friday for me, and I'm still wearing the same shirt. That being said, I originally had this set up so I was going to do it as the history, how do they work, how to use one, how to use it safely. But that might not be the best idea. Most people will go ahead and play with a Ouija board before they take the time to figure out how it works. So how do you use one? I feel like that's kind of like the marvel at it that I'm coming with it, where it's, oh, cool, it works, but how? And you need to figure out how to use it before you ask the question, how does it work? This is more scientific this way. So we're going to come back to how do they work and just go on to how to use one.
As always, I like to usually start off with a quick Google search. But instead today, I want to go over here to YouTube. I haven't watched a single one of these. I don't know which one to pick. But we're going to move on to Expert Village Leaf Group. See if this one's any better. Really, I have not checked any of these before. I'm going in blind right now. We are researching for the first time together.
Hi, my name is Wendy St. George, and this is how to play Ouija. Ouija is a two-set piece. There's the board, the witch board or talking board, and then there's the flying planchette or widget that you
read it through.
What'd she just call it? A widget? I mean, I guess that makes sense. Wait, what is the definition of widget? I know I see them on my phone all the time ever since my first smartphone, and like, wow. Widget, that I can spell. Use widgets on your phone. Okay, how about widget definition? Small gadget or a mechanical device, especially one whose name is unknown or unspecified. That is an apt description of a planchette. Okay, let's go. Continue on.
No, I'm not at the point. It is placed on the lap of the player or on a small table between all the players. You can fit 3, 4, maybe 5 people at a time. Everyone else would have to watch. It would be helpful to have a secretary who is not on the board writing down the responses that were.
I have never owned a Ouija board until now, but I have been in the room when one was being played with, and it's always been a rule of thumb that you have somebody that's writing down all of the questions and the answers that the board gives. Because me and most of my friends that I have ever had throughout the past, because I'm kind of a loner now, I don't really have friends. That's why I spend so much time on the internet. That, and hopefully I can make money off of the internet if I obsess enough over it. But I don't have friends now. I used to, and when I did, we would play with a Ouija board. And just like that, you need somebody to write things down because sometimes you don't realize what you're saying or what's being said to you. Have somebody to write shit down when you're playing with a Ouija board.
Coming up. How you play is that each player puts 2 fingers lightly, very lightly, on the playing piece.
2 fingers.
And then you close your eyes and concentrate.
Lightly.
You should have the lights out. And eventually, it'll start moving.
Hello, Magda.
Sometimes you have to wait.
Oh my goodness, taking the whole
And
keyboard
move
with
around
you.
letters and numbers and settle. And start to spell something out. There's also yes and no available. So you ask the board, typically you ask it a question.
How far apart do you need your
Are
fingers
spirits
spaced?
here tonight? And then it'll slowly start to answer you. Yes. But now it's knocked it off the board. We're going to start it now. You can ask questions and it'll either say yes or no, or spell things out, or use the numbers. If you offend the spirits, they have the option of saying goodbye. And that's how you play Ouija.
Sweet! I might be ready to play. But first,
So, in my mind, I'm doing research. I think I've got myself in a mental space where I might be ready to play. But I'm also recalling that there apparently is Ouija board etiquette. And honestly, I forget that off the top of my head what the etiquette rules are for playing with a Ouija board. So let's see if we can find those. As I'm going through these things, I'm probably going to start recalling some of the things that I heard along the way. By the way, Dahlia's here. She's coming along for the ride because she was the one who was host when we were going through all of this stuff originally as teenagers. So let's go back through that.
How Ouija boards work and all the spooky rules of the Ouija board. That's from sci-fi. Play a thing that completely, but if you must use a Ouija board, complete. You know what? This one seems promising. Complete guide to using a Ouija board properly. Sure. The complete guide to using. Oh, fucking advertisements. By Stephanie Wagner. Using a Ouija board can be an interesting experience. Some believe that it is a doorway to another world and warn against its use. But most people see it as a harmless diversion, especially if it's not taken too seriously. Here are some guidelines. Okay. And the Ouija board. Fucking sound like a Ouija board. Sorry, I love to make fun of Zach Baggins. Oh, a Ouija board is easy to use, but it's not meant to be a solo activity. It takes two. Usually one person is not able to work the Ouija. Get a friend to use it with you. Having a male and female in the group usually recommended. I feel like that's a leftover from like the sleepover slumber party sort of thing. Like when I was a teenager, I remember these dumb little things meant to scare you, like Bloody Mary, stiff as a board, light as a feather, and Ouija board usually got lumped in there as well. I feel that's kind of like, same mentality of like, spin the bottle, but it's spooky, so you need a guy and a girl. Oh my god. Timing. Number 2. Most practitioners suggest using the board at night when they say less interference is in the atmosphere, but you can use it any time. I mean, I've noticed that most spirits are active at night for some reason, so yeah, seems legit. Create some atmosphere. The Ouija board's more fun if you darken the room and light some candles, turn off the TV, and any music to minimize the distraction. See? At least they're saying create some atmosphere. They're not saying that the spirits are more enticed that way. Oh my god. That last one really made me. Anyhow, 4. Have a seat. The two users should sit facing each other with knees touching if possible. I don't know if that's really necessary, especially when you have, I would always recommend having a table in between you or the floor. And just having it on your knees, when we get into how it works and we start going over the ideomotor effect, that's going to be a huge reason why I am saying have it on a flat surface. So knees touching, only if you're really putting it in between yourselves on your knees, but I'm still going to recommend not doing that. With knees touching if possible, with the board on their laps, don't use a table. Use a fucking table! Oh my god! Decide on a questioner or medium. Oh, decide the person who's going to... Okay, even though both people ask questions, or anyone else in the room, only one of the users should be the medium, the one to formally ask questions of the board. Honestly, I'd recommend this. That way, everybody can ask a question, but now everybody's deciding which question to ask, so now that person, the medium, is the one who's deciding and the one who's speaking, so now the spirits now listen to this one so things aren't going all kind of cattywampus. 6. Place your fingers on the planchette. You and your partner should place the fingers of both hands very lightly on the planchette or pointer, as we saw in the little 1.5 minute video a few minutes ago. Move it! Move it, move it! Spooky edition. Purposely move the planchette around on a circle in the board for a moment or two to get it warmed up. You know what? I think that this is probably good. You know, the figure eight, now that I'm thinking about it, the figure eight movement kind of gets you and your hands sort of in sync. You're kind of vibing with each other, and now it's ready to move. That's actually a good thing. Something I'll think about. It's like now, like doing that. I never understood why, but that could be a reason. It's like you're syncing yourself with the other people to glide and move and get your muscle memory moved together. Ah, wow, that just occurred to me. All right, 8, attitude. Don't let the board control the session. The medium should begin by announcing that the session will only allow an experience that is positive or toward a higher good and that negative energies are not welcome. Some people want negative energies. Like, okay, say, example, I work with demons. In my spiritual practice, I work with the infernal divine. So if I were to say that wouldn't help me at all unless I really don't want them to be a part of the session. It's supposed to be all just for fun, not spirit communication in that way. So I would advise saying, like, making your intent clear. What do you want out of it? And then make that known regardless of what you're coming to the board for. Are you here for fun? Are you here to collect information? Are you trying to connect with somebody specifically? Make that your defining statement when you sit down to sort of get your attitude in the right mindset. 9, begin simply. Start with a simple question, one that requires yes or no answer. Honestly, sometimes yes or no is the best way to go about it, at least to start. Because sometimes, gosh, I don't even know. I just have an excuse. I feel like begins, this is good. This is solid. Solid. 10, be patient. You might not begin to get answers right away. Give the board a chance to warm up. Okay, you know what? That's fair. Be polite. When the board starts working, thank the board or entities for showing up to communicate with you. Yeah, basic rule of thumb for any kind of spirit communication. Don't ask stupid questions. Avoid questions such as, when am I going to die? If the board answers in 6 months, you might worry about it needlessly because you cannot always trust the board to tell you the truth. 13, lucky number 13. I'm going to go ahead, going back to, I'm pointing at it as if you can actually see it. Going back to 12. Yeah, no, for real. That's my biggest gripe with Ouija boards is they're so unreliable. You never know who the fuck you're talking to, and there's no way to really tell. Even myself as a medium, I don't know who the fuck is coming through the board. So just basic, simple questions, my guys. Don't ask for physical signs. Many experienced users warn against asking for physical signs that the spirit is real or present. Yeah, you know what? Now you're giving permission for whatever spirit you're communicating with to come through and interact with your physical environment, and now you're giving it permission. Don't do that unless you're up for what could happen afterwards, which is letting the spirit into your home to stick around for a while. Don't believe everything the board tells you. Just as with any other source of information, don't accept whatever the board says to be the truth or accurate. Yeah, no, 100%. Close the board. Yeah, honestly, this is one of the most important things. This is an important step when you're done with your session. Intentionally slide the planchette to say goodbye and remove your hands. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so we've gone over the history. We figured out where it came from and what other kind of similar stuff there is that was like it beforehand. We also figured out how to use it. Couple of rules of thumb. Went over the basic Ouija board etiquette. How does it work? Really, how do these things work? When it comes to figuring out how these things work, the best option, the best idea that keeps coming across every single time you try to figure it out is the ideomotor effect. What the fuck is the ideomotor effect? Luckily enough, the Boo review in the same Ouija board video that we started going over at the beginning of this particular video, they kind of went over it a little bit, but that's not going to be enough. But let's take a look at what they had to say, and then we'll jump off from there. All right. Let's get it done.
An explanation, a reasonable explanation for what people get whenever they move the planchette around is the planchette is not moving itself. It is being moved by
you subconsciously.
Yes. It's called the ideometer or ideomotor effect. If you'd like to look more into it, there'll be a video down in the description below. But basically they took some people and had them around the table, Ouija board, planchette, hands on it, asked questions, it moved around, and it gave them answers that made sense for their questions. They did the same thing, blindfolded the people, went on a similar round of questions, and the planchette moved to answers that made no sense. It was gibberish. It wasn't words.
Some of it
was just random letters.
You got a J and a K, and you got 3 blanks that were on the middle of the wood. There was no numbers here, here, or here.
When I had tried to figure out what the idiomotor effect was before, I noticed that when you look into context with Ouija boards involved, what you get is a whole bunch of trying to explain the idiomotor effect in context with the Ouija board. So let's just circumvent that and figure out what the idiomotor effect is without how it relates to Ouija boards.
Alright, so the idiomotor... I'm not gonna waste my time. There we go! Idiomotor phenomenon. That's nifty. Oh, look. It's also in context to pendulums. What do you know? We just found a way to figure out pendulums also. Let's go back. Let's just... Wikipedia. We always start with Wikipedia, right? The idiomotor phenomenon is a psychological phenomenon wherein a subject makes motions unconsciously, also called idiomotor response or idiomotor reflex, and abbreviated to IMR. It is a concept in hypnosis and psychological research. It is derived from the term ideo, idea or mental representation, and motor, muscular action. The phrase is most commonly used in reference to the process whereby a thought or mental image brings about a seemingly reflexive or automatic muscular reaction, often of minuscule degree and potentially outside the awareness of the subject, as in reflexive responses to pain. The body sometimes reacts reflexively with an idiomotor effect to ideas alone without the person consciously deciding to take on the action. The effects of automatic writing, dowsing, facilitated communication, applied kinesiology, and Ouija boards have been attributed to the phenomenon. The associated term idiodynamic response or reflex applies to a wider domain and extends to the description of all bodily reactions, including idiomotor and idiosensory responses, caused in a similar manner by certain ideas. The salivation often caused by imagining sucking a lemon, which is a secretory response. The notion of idiodynamic responses contributes to James Braid's first neuropsychological explanation of the principle through which suggestion operated in hypnotism. All right. Oh, look, we got the Charlie challenge over here. Huh. So, history of scientific investigation. With the rise of spiritualism in the 1840s, nice, mediums devised and refined a variety of techniques for communicating ostensibly with the spirit world, including table turning and planchette writing boards, the precursor to later Ouija boards. These phenomenon and devices quickly became the subject of scientific investigation. The term idiomotor was first used in a scientific paper discussing the means through which the spiritualistic phenomenon produced effect by William Benjamin Carpenter in 1852, hence the alternative term, the Carpenter effect. Carpenter derived the word idiomotor from the components idio. Okay, we kind of already went over this. In the paper, Carpenter explained that his theory that muscular movement can be interpreted... Sorry, I'm going to start that over. Carpenter explained his theory that muscular movement can be independent of conscious desires or emotions. I don't know why I said it like that. Sounded a lot like Burger King foot lettuce. Hi, Dahlia. Now, I know there are some people who are much more like me and are visual learners more than hearing somebody prattle on from a Wikipedia article. So, I found a video real quick coming to us from James Tripp Chaos Wave, the self-hypnosis and idiomotor effect, aka the haunted key. Let's look into it.
Hi there, this is James Tripp, this is the Hypnosis Without Trance blog. I have something to share with you that's a little bit different from usual, a little bit off the beaten track, but it's something nonetheless that affords me the opportunity to discuss certain principles of hypnosis in an interesting and unusual context. So let's have a look at it first, then we'll discuss it afterwards. This is the haunted key. It's about getting the energy to go in. It sometimes takes some time. You have to do
hang on, this looks familiar.
Yes, much more conductive, but just watch the end, okay? Okay, so
You know what that's actually making me think of is not too long ago, oh gosh, it was probably about a year ago. There was a trend on the witchy side of TikTok where people were putting stones in the palm of their hand. Like, oh gosh, do I got a stone around here? Oh look, I've got a whole tray of them. People were taking stones and putting them in the palm of their hand, and they were trying to push things away. They were trying to roll the stone off of their hand just through like telekinesis or some shit. That trend took off real quick and fizzled out just as fast. It looks like there's a lot of stuff in spiritualism that can be explained through this ideomotor response. But how does the ideomotor response make somebody able to roll a key or a stone off of their hand? I'm sure he's going to explain it. Let's go.
what on earth is going on there? Well, interestingly enough, you may be surprised to hear this, but it wasn't anything to do with chi or chi energy. What you've actually just watched there is a piece of hypnosis. Specifically, it's a piece of self-hypnosis. What you've just seen there is a video of me hypnotising myself to believe something, and then that thing that I hypnotised myself to believe has manifested in reality, so to speak. Now, this is not as far out as it might sound. If you have the free report, Hypnosis Beyond Transmit, the Hypnosis Without Trance report, you will already have encountered the concept of the hypnotic loop, and also in there I discuss ideodynamics, and specifically here, this is an example of an ideomotor phenomenon. So what is it you've just seen? Well, what I'm doing in this video is I'm placing a key on my hand, and I'm going into a reality in which I believe that I can move that.
Going into a reality where I believe I can move the key. That sounds just as spiritualist and hokey as anything else you're going to hear somebody say. But I feel like the way that he's explaining it is, instead of changing your reality, you're changing your mindset to believe something. Oh my gosh. I'm not sure how 100% credible this guy is, but you know what? We've made it this far.
That key using chi energy. So what I'm doing in a way is I'm setting up a hypnotic loop within myself. I'm going into this reality where I see it, and I believe, so remember belief is at the top of the hypnotic loop, I believe that I can move that with the power of my chi or the power of my mind. And I just get in there and I believe it and I will it to happen.
You know, this is actually making me think a lot of the theories explained within chaos magic, where belief is a tool to get you to produce a certain effect. Now, chaos magic is blown up to a much grander proportion to affect more things than your own physiology, but it's definitely giving me that idea of the same principles of chaos magic, where belief is a tool to bring about results. Huh. You know? Maybe there's more to this.
So then the next stage of the hypnotic loop is kicked off, imagination. I go into that experience and I imagine it fully and I imagine it vividly. And as I imagine it fully and as I imagine it vividly, the next stage of the loop kicks off. And what I get is a physiological response, micro-muscle movements. Now if I try to simulate this by just kind of moving my muscles in a certain way, I wouldn't have that fine level of control that I can have outside of consciousness. So it's a kind of subtle, indirect way of getting something by going into the reality. So I get this physiological response.
Okay, oh my god, I'm having a hard time because I've got such a visceral response when people start using a whole bunch of like the new agey spirituality type of language, just because God, that stuff makes me so uneasy. It's so cult-like, and this guy is using a lot of the same language within it, but I feel like we've got the basic idea. Like, basically you're self-hypnotizing yourself into believing that you're moving the key, and because you believe it, your body is making it happen. So you believe it, and then your subconscious makes a response so your muscles twitch to make it work. What I'm hearing is belief is the key. Belief is the answer to make this happen.
You know, that's actually a really cool idea to me, because I've noticed in my time that people who are downright skeptical, like don't believe in it at all, like, oh, it's just a bunch of bullshit, there's no way it's legit, And those people who wind up using the board wind up not having any experience at all. Like, that disbelief makes it not work. So, belief is the key. Oh gosh, that sounds cringe. I take it back. I mean, it's true, but oh my god. So, it's November 1st. And I feel as disheveled as I look. And that is due in part because the production of this video has continued to be tedious and arduous. So this is going to be 2 parts. If I have any hope of getting this up in any amount of time, I need to cut it off here. I feel like this is a good point to pause, to stop, and then make a part 2 where I am showing you guys how to use the Ouija board safely, add protections, and then just have fun playing it. Do a little opening for you guys, and just take a look at it. Maybe I'll add a story time in there for, yeah, I don't even know. Maybe there'll be a story time just to fill up time and space in that video. But on that note, this is the end of part 1. I hope you enjoyed it. And keep your eyes open for the part 2. Till next time, much love. Peace out. Namaste. And goodbye.